When defeat felt certain, they asked the humans for help. The stars burned cold and silent above the Arindian fleet. Their ships floated like fragile shells in the vast emptiness of space. Captain Leora Tan stared at the damage reports flashing across the view screen. Each number made her chest tighten.
Ships lost. Colonies destroyed. Soldiers gone. The Arindians had fought bravely for centuries, but now defeat felt certain.
Leora's species had always believed in courage, in honor, in fighting, even when hope was small. But hope was nearly gone. The Zerathi had been relentless. Their ships were faster, stronger, and their weapons far more powerful than anything the Arindians had ever built.
Every battle ended the same way. Arindians fell back, their forces shattered, and their allies frightened. In the command room, other officers whispered in hushed tones.
Some tried to hold their composure, but fear showed in their faces. Leora had to act. She took a deep breath, steadying herself.
"Enough," she said firmly. "We have one choice left."
Her officers looked up, surprised.
"What choice?" asked a young lieutenant.
His voice was shaky. Leora's green eyes, sharp and calm, met his.
"We ask the humans for help."
The room went quiet. A few gasps escaped. Humans? The species from a small blue planet called Earth?
They were barely known in galactic politics. They were primitive compared to the Zerathi, their technology limited. Why would they even care about the Arindians?
Leora ignored their doubts. She had studied humans. They were young, yes, but different. The reports showed their ingenuity, their ability to adapt, their bravery in situations others could not survive.
The Arindians had failed because they fought like the war always demanded. Slow, careful, precise. Humans were unpredictable. Maybe unpredictability was what they needed.
On Earth, in a city filled with glass towers and humming engines, Captain Ryan Hale adjusted his uniform. He had been briefed only moments ago by the Arindian ambassador.
A fleet on the brink of destruction. They were asking humanity for help.
Ryan rubbed his face, thinking carefully.
This was no ordinary request.
Helping an alien species meant putting Earth at risk. But something about the message caught his attention.
The way the Arindians described their situation. The desperation.
The honesty. Humans responded to challenges, and this was a challenge beyond anything they had faced.
Ryan nodded slowly. "We can't ignore this," he said.
Lieutenant Sophie Miller leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing on her lips. "You're thinking what I'm thinking?" she asked. Ryan chuckled lightly.
"Humans can do things no one expects. If these aliens really are on the edge of defeat, maybe it's time we show them what we can do."
Sophie grinned.
"I like the sound of that."
Back in space, Leora Tan activated the communication channel. Across the void, a human fleet slowly appeared, their ships small but strong. Ryan and Sophie were aboard the largest vessel, the Liberty. They looked at the Arindian ships, battered but not broken. Leora's voice came through the calm and respectful. "We do not know if your species will help us," Leora said, "but if you refuse, all of us will die."
"Our homeworlds, our people, our history, everything will be lost."
Ryan studied the Arindian ships carefully.
"We'll help," he said finally. "But we do things differently. You need to trust us." Trust was hard for the Arindians.
They had been betrayed before. Their pride made it even harder. But time was running out. Leora nodded. "We have no choice. You have our trust."
The first task was simple but dangerous. Repair and strengthen the remaining Arindian ships.
Humans worked quickly, moving through the corridors and engines with practiced efficiency. They had never seen this kind of technology before, but they learned fast. Sophie examined a weapon system and grinned.
"We can make this better," she said.
Within hours, her suggestions improved the speed and power of the guns. Ryan stood at the bridge of one of the ships, looking at the tactical maps.
The Zerathi were not far away. Every minute counted. "We need to think ahead," he said. "They expect the same patterns. We won't give them the same fight twice." The Arindians were skeptical. "We have fought this way for hundreds of years," one officer said. "How can humans succeed where we fail?" Ryan smiled. "Because we do not fight like you. We improvise."
We adapt. Sometimes, that is stronger than any weapon.
Days passed. Humans trained with Arendian crews, teaching them new strategies, ways to move faster, ways to hide, ways to strike where the enemy was weakest.
The Arendians were hesitant at first, but they watched humans act. Humans were bold, unafraid of risk, willing to try things that seemed impossible. Slowly, hope returned. Leora Tan observed from her command seat. The humans did not have the same history or pride as the Arendians, yet they acted with confidence. They were not perfect. Mistakes were made, and sometimes they laughed when a plan went wrong. But somehow, these mistakes led to new ideas, new solutions. Leora realized the humans were a force the Zarathi had never faced, creative, daring, and fearless. One night, Leora visited the human command ship. Ryan was at the navigation console, Sophie beside him, plotting the fastest route through an asteroid field. "I do not understand," Leora said quietly.
"How can you be so calm?" Ryan shrugged. "Calm is just part of the work. Fear doesn't help anyone. We focus on what we can do, not what we cannot," Sophie added. "And sometimes a little risk pays off. You'll see." In humans, she saw something different from the Arendians. Determination, yes, but also flexibility.
They were not bound by rules, tradition, or fear. And now the Arendians would need all of that. The first skirmish came sooner than expected. A Zarathi scout fleet appeared near a small Arendian outpost. The humans immediately took control of the defensive systems, directing Arendian ships in ways their own commanders had never imagined. Sophie piloted a small strike craft, weaving through enemy fire, drawing the Zarathi attention. Ryan coordinated larger ships, moving them in unpredictable patterns. The Zarathi were confused.
Their calculations could not account for human unpredictability. Within hours, the scout fleet was destroyed.
The Arendians could not believe it. Leora's crew cheered quietly.
Perhaps this is possible," she whispered.
The humans, as usual, smiled modestly. "We only did what we could," Ryan said. After the battle, Leora walked among her officers. The mood had changed.
Fear had not disappeared, but hope had returned.
"We may still lose," she admitted.
"The Zarathi are too strong. But now we have a chance."
Ryan and Sophie joined her. "It is not over," Ryan said. "But neither is it impossible." Sophie grinned.
"And sometimes impossible is just another word for not tried yet."
Leora watched them.
These humans were strange, reckless in some ways but brilliant in others. They were a species that adapted, that took risks, that fought with mind as well as strength.
She realized something she had never believed. Perhaps humans could do what the Arendians alone could not. The fleet moved together toward the edge of known space.
The humans and the Arendians now sailed as one, small and fragile against the might of the Zarathi. But in the hearts of those aboard, a spark had ignited. They were not alone. They had allies. And they had humans, unpredictable, fearless humans, who could turn the tide of battle in ways no one had ever imagined. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, Leora allowed herself a small smile.
For the first time in many years, defeat did not feel certain, and somewhere, deep in the human command ship, Ryan Hale and Sophie Miller prepared for the battles ahead. Confident in the impossible, ready to show the galaxy what humans could do. The Arendian fleet moved through the dark of space, small and battered, but now guided by humans who brought something the Arendians had never known: new ideas, courage, and hope. Captain Leora Tan walked along the corridors of her flagship, watching her officers work. They were quieter now, more focused.
Fear was still there, but it was no longer crushing.
Ryan Hale stood at the bridge of the human command ship, the Liberty, studying the tactical map. He had spent the last days learning as much as he could about the Zarathi fleet.
Their ships were powerful but predictable. That was their mistake. Humans thrived on unpredictability.
He turned to Lieutenant Sophie Miller, who was checking the status of the Arindian ships.
These vessels can move faster than they think, Ryan said. We just need to show them the right way. Use the asteroid fields, the debris. Make them think twice before attacking.
Sophie grinned.
And a few traps? I've been sketching some ideas.
Nothing fancy, but enough to confuse them. Ryan nodded. Good. Let's see if the Arindians can keep up. The humans began teaching the Arindian crews in ways that were both strange and effective.
Humans did not follow the old rules of battle. They practiced improvisation. They tried things that seemed risky. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it failed.
But the Arindians watched carefully. Lieutenant Jalen, a young Arindian officer, tried one of the human techniques. He moved his ship through a narrow asteroid belt, dodging Scifi scanners. It was dangerous, but it worked. His eyes widened in surprise.
It actually worked, he whispered. I never thought we could do that. Humans laughed.
Sometimes the rules are just limits in your head. Leora Tan observed these lessons. She had been proud of her species, proud of their discipline. But she could not deny that humans were teaching her officers something her people had lost: boldness and the ability to think beyond the obvious. Days passed, and the humans' influence grew. They began retrofitting Arindian ships, combining human engineering with alien technology. Ryan and Sophie worked side by side with Arindian engineers, suggesting small changes that made big differences. "We can move the energy shields here," Ryan explained. "It will protect the engines and allow more speed during maneuvers." Sophie added, "And if we change the targeting software slightly, the weapons can hit moving targets faster."
Trust me, it will surprise the Zarathi. The Arindians were amazed. Their ships, once slow and predictable, now moved with speed and precision they had never seen before. The humans did not just fix problems. They created opportunities.
Then the first real test came. A small Zarathi fleet appeared near a supply station that the Arindians had been protecting. Leora Tan called a meeting of her officers.
They will destroy the station if we do nothing, she said. We must defend it, but our forces are weak. Ryan leaned forward. We don't fight like your fleet normally fights. Let's lure them in, then use the terrain, asteroids, debris, anything we can, and we will strike from unexpected directions.
You follow my lead. Some Arindian officers looked nervous.
This is dangerous, one said.
Ryan smiled.
Dangerous works for us. The battle began.
Sophie piloted a small strike craft, darting in and out of the asteroid field, drawing the Zarathi fire. Her movements were unpredictable, impossible for their automated targeting systems to track.
Arindian ships guided by human tactics moved through gaps the Zarathi thought were impossible. Ryan directed the fleet from the Liberty. Now! Fire from the left flank! Rotate shields! Focus on their engines! The Zarathi were caught off guard.
Their scanners could not predict the humans' maneuvers. Within hours, the small fleet was defeated. The supply station was saved. Leora Tan could hardly believe it. Her officers cheered quietly, stunned by the unexpected victory. Humans, she realized, brought more than skill. They brought a new way of thinking.
After the battle, the humans and Arindians worked together to repair and upgrade more ships. Ryan and Sophie did not stop.
They suggested new formations, new attack strategies, even small changes to ship design. The Arindians began to adapt quickly. Lieutenant Jalen approached Leora.
Captain, I never thought humans could help so much. They see things differently. We can do this. Maybe we can actually fight back.
Leora smiled softly. Yes, Jalen.
And not only fight back, we may survive.
Weeks passed. The combined human-Eridin fleet moved carefully through the outer systems, avoiding large Zarithi forces while gaining strength.
Humans taught them how to use stealth, speed, and surprise. They also shared tactics that no alien had ever used before, like false signals, quick retreats, and sudden attacks from behind. The Arindians began to see humans as more than allies. They were a new hope. Leora Tan found herself admiring their courage. Humans did not wait for permission or for the perfect plan. They acted.
They adapted, and somehow, even when things seemed impossible, they found a way to succeed.
One evening, Ryan and Sophie were reviewing a map of the Zarithi supply lines. "If we hit here, we can slow them down," Ryan said.
"It will be risky, but it will give the Arindians time to rebuild their fleet." Sophie frowned. "They will expect a direct attack.
"We need a distraction."
Ryan smiled. "Leave that to me." The next mission tested humans and Arindians like never before. A large Zarathi patrol appeared near a mining colony. Leora's officers were anxious.
"We can't fight that fleet,"
one said. Ryan shook his head. "We don't fight it the usual way.
"We make them fight where we want. Watch and learn." Humans moved quickly. Small strike teams attacked from unexpected angles.
Arindian ships followed the humans' lead, weaving through asteroid fields, dodging missiles and confusing the enemy. The Zarathi, used to direct battles, could not adapt. By the end of the day, the patrol was defeated. The mining colony was safe.
And once again, the humans had shown the Arindians that courage, speed, and clever thinking could defeat overwhelming odds. After the battle, Leora Tan gathered her officers. "We are learning from humans," she said, "and they are teaching us to be more than soldiers. They are teaching us to be clever, daring, and united."
Lieutenant Jalen nodded. "I never thought this possible."
"Death to the turncoat. Humans, they make us believe we can fight back." Ryan and Sophie joined them.
"You already can," Ryan said. "You just needed a new way to see it." Sophie smiled.
"And don't forget, sometimes a little risk is worth it."
The fleet continued to grow stronger. The humans' presence inspired the Arindians, who had spent centuries in despair.
Every battle, every mission, every upgrade built confidence. The Zarathi were powerful, but humans and Arindians together were beginning to fight in ways no one had seen before.
One night, Leora Tan walked on the observation deck of her ship, looking at the stars. She thought of the countless worlds the Zarathi had destroyed. She thought of her people, scattered and broken. But now, she felt hope. Humans were different.
They were brave, unpredictable, and full of ideas the Arindians could never imagine alone. Somewhere deep in space, the Zarathi were preparing for the next strike, unaware that humans had already changed the way war would be fought. Leora knew it. Ryan and Sophie knew it.
And the Arindians were beginning to believe it. For the first time in centuries, defeat no longer felt certain. And as the fleet moved silently through the dark, Ryan Hale prepared a new plan, one that would test humans and Arindians alike. One that would show the Zarathi that even the strongest enemy could be beaten by courage, cleverness, and the will to fight. The humans had arrived. And with them, hope had returned. The combined human-Arindian fleet moved closer to the heart of the Zarathi supply lines. Captain Leora Tan stood on her command deck, watching her officers prepare for what could be the largest battle they had faced. Humans had changed everything. The Arindians had learned new ways to move, fight, and survive, and the humans themselves had become more daring with every mission. Ryan Hale and Sophie Miller studied the tactical maps on the Liberty. Ryan's fingers traced the paths of the Zarathi convoys.
"If we hit here," he said, "we can cut off their supplies and force them to divide their fleet."
"But it's risky. They will expect an attack, and they will prepare."
Sophie tapped a few points on the map.
"They'll expect what we expect. But humans don't fight like that."
"Let's use that. We'll create a trap and force them to fight where they least want to."
Ryan nodded.
"Exactly. Speed, surprise, and confusion."
"That's how we win." The fleet moved into position near an asteroid field on the edge of a barren system. Erindian ships, guided by humans, used the cover of asteroids and debris to hide their presence. Small scout crafts, piloted by humans, darted back and forth, drawing the attention of the Zarathi patrols.
Lieutenant Jalen, now more confident, watched the human pilots. "They are fearless," he said to another officer.
And clever. I never imagined we could fight like this.
Leora Tan smiled quietly.
It is not just bravery. It is thinking differently. Humans do not follow the old rules. They find the impossible and make it possible.
The first engagement began with small strikes. Humans piloted small crafts, moving quickly and unpredictably. Erindian ships followed their lead, weaving between asteroids, firing from unexpected angles. The Zarathi ships fired back, but their calculations could not track the human maneuvers. Missiles went wide, weapons misfired. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Ryan coordinated the attacks.
Divide their forces! Push their flanks! Keep them guessing!
His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp, watching every movement. Sophie led a daring maneuver. She piloted a small strike craft through a narrow gap in the asteroid belt, passing between two massive Zarathi ships. With a sudden burst of speed, she hit their engines and moved out before they could fire. "Surprise," she whispered, smiling at the screen. The Erindians around her watched in amazement.
They had never seen such boldness.
One officer shook his head.
No Erindian would do that,
he muttered. Ryan chuckled. Humans do. As the battle escalated, humans continued to surprise the Zarathi. Ryan and Sophie used decoys, false signals, and sudden retreats to confuse the enemy. Erindians adapted quickly, following the human strategies. Small squads of humans targeted weak points in the Zarathi fleet. Their unpredictability made the powerful enemy fleet falter. Leora Tan moved among her officers.
The humans are extraordinary, she whispered. Without them, we would have no chance.
With them, we might even win. The Zarathi leaders began to panic. Their advanced ships were being destroyed, their supply lines cut, their strategy failing. They had expected easy victories, but humans did not fight like any species they had known. Hours turned into days as the fleet pressed deeper into enemy territory. Humans piloted dangerous raids into the heart of the Zarathi convoys. Sophie led one mission, slipping past enemy sensors to capture a key supply ship. The Zarathi were furious, but they could not predict her next move. Ryan directed multiple attacks simultaneously.
Split their fleet! Confuse them! Keep pressing!
His orders were precise yet adaptable, changing as the enemy reacted. Humans could think faster than the Zarathi computers, and they could adapt where algorithms failed.
The Erindians, inspired by the humans, began to fight with new confidence. Ships that once would have hidden now charged into battle, using the human strategies.
Every success built courage. Every victory gave hope.
One night after a particularly successful strike, Leora Tan stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. She thought of her people, scattered and broken, and then of the humans, bold and unpredictable.
Ryan appeared beside her. It's getting harder for them to predict us, he said. The more we fight, the more their confidence fades. They will make mistakes, and we will be ready.
Leora nodded. Your species is remarkable.
You take risks we never would, and yet they succeed. Sophie joined them. It's not luck. We just think differently. You can do it, too.
Leora smiled. We are learning.
And we are grateful. The next battle was the turning point.
A large Zarathi fleet appeared, far larger than anything the Erindians had faced before. Panic rose among the officers. Leora's hand tightened on the railing.
They are strong, but they are predictable. They rely on numbers, not cleverness. That is their weakness, Sophie grinned. Then we use it against them. Follow our lead!
The humans led the Erindians into the asteroid field. Smaller strike teams moved ahead, drawing enemy attention.
Then, in a coordinated attack, the fleet struck from multiple directions. Zarathi ships were trapped between moving forces they could not predict. Missiles exploded harmlessly in empty space, and enemy ships collided with asteroids as they tried to escape. Leora watched, amazed. The Arindians, following human tactics, moved with a speed and daring they had never known. The battle was chaotic, unpredictable, and brilliant.
Sophie led a small group into the enemy's center. "We need their control ship," she said. With precise maneuvers, her team disabled the Zarathi command vessel. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Without orders, their ships faltered and retreated. Ryan coordinated the rest of the fleet. "Push them back! Don't let them recover!" The Zarathi forces scattered, overwhelmed by a strategy they could not anticipate. Leora Tan allowed herself a rare smile. "We have done it," she whispered. "We may actually survive!" After the battle, the humans and Arindians repaired their ships and treated the wounded. For the first time in centuries, the Arindians felt hope.
Humans had changed everything. They had turned a desperate situation into a possible victory. Lieutenant Jalen approached Leora. "Captain, the humans, they are more than allies. They are teachers, warriors, and leaders. I do not know if we would have survived without them." Leora nodded. "Nor do I. Humans have shown us courage and cleverness that our people have forgotten. We must follow their example." Ryan and Sophie, exhausted but smiling, walked among the Arindians. "You did well," Ryan said. "Humans can help, but you have to fight too." "Together we are strong," Sophie added. "And remember, the unexpected is our greatest weapon." Never underestimate it. The fleet moved forward, stronger than before. Humans and Arindians had formed a bond, built on courage, trust, and the willingness to try what others thought impossible. The Zarathi would come again, but they would not find easy victory. Humans had shown them that intelligence, creativity, and bravery could challenge even the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Leora Tan stood at the observation deck, looking at the stars. For the first time, she believed the Arindians could reclaim their worlds. Humans had given them more than strategy. They had given them hope. Ryan Hale watched the fleet from the Liberty. "The next battle will be harder," he said. "But we've shown what we can do." "They will never expect what comes next," Sophie grinned. "Then let's give them a show they will never forget." The stars stretched endlessly before them. The humans had arrived, and their presence had changed everything. The Arindians were no longer alone. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans were a force unlike any other, unpredictable, fearless, and brilliant. Defeat no longer loomed over them. The tide had turned, and victory was within reach, if they were brave enough to take it. The stars stretched endlessly in front of the fleet. Captain Leora Tan stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the battle reports. The Zarathi were gathering their forces for what could be the final strike. Their fleet was massive, far larger than the combined human Arindian fleet. The moment of truth had arrived. Leora's officers were tense, but she felt a calm determination. "We have come this far," she said. "With humans beside us, we are not defeated. We will fight with everything we have." Ryan Hale leaned over the tactical map aboard the Liberty. His fingers traced the positions of the enemy fleet. "They think strength alone will win," he said. "But humans fight differently. We'll make them fail." Sophie Miller checked her small strike craft. "It's going to be messy," she said. "But that's exactly what we want." "Chaos is our ally." The fleet moved into position near a dense asteroid belt in a neutral star system. Humans and Arindians hid their ships among the rocks, preparing for the Zarathi assault. Ryan called a final meeting with the fleet commanders. "We don't fight like the Zarathi," he explained. "We will use speed, surprise, and intelligence." Split into small groups,
Attack from multiple directions and always keep them guessing. Use the terrain, use the ship's abilities, and trust your instincts.
Leora nodded.
We follow your lead. Humans, we trust your plan.
Sophie smiled.
Good. Let's show them what humans can do.
The first wave of the Zurathi arrived. Their massive ships advanced with power and confidence, expecting a straightforward battle.
They fired on the Arindian fleet, expecting fear and retreat. Instead, they were met with sudden attacks from human-led strike teams darting between asteroids. Missiles exploded harmlessly in empty space and smaller ships struck where the enemy was weakest. Ryan directed the fleet.
Push their flanks. Rotate shields. Target engines first. Keep moving.
Sophie led a daring maneuver, weaving through enemy fire to strike the central command ship of the Zurathi fleet. Her craft fired precise shots, disabling their communications and sensors. Confusion spread through the enemy.
Without orders, the massive fleet faltered. Arindian ships, guided by human strategies, took advantage.
They struck quickly, and then disappeared into asteroid cover. The Zarathi had never seen anything like it. Lieutenant Jalen watched the battle from the command deck. They are
unstoppable, he whispered. I never thought we could do this.
Leora Tan placed a hand on his shoulder. We are learning.
Humans have shown us courage and intelligence together. Now we fight as one.
Ryan and Sophie coordinated multiple attacks at once. Humans moved unpredictably, striking where the enemy did not expect. Arindians adapted quickly, following the human tactics. The combined fleet moved like a living organism, fast, clever, and deadly.
The Zarathi struggled. Their numbers were large, but their strategy was failing.
Humans did not follow rules. They acted on instinct, improvisation, and clever tricks.
Each mistake the Zarathi made was punished immediately. The turning point came when Ryan noticed a weak spot in the Zarathi formation.
Their main weapons array is exposed, he said. Sophie, take a strike team and hit it.
The rest of us will distract them. Sophie nodded.
Let's go!
Her small group darted forward, invisible among asteroids. They fired carefully, targeting the central weapon arrays. Explosions tore through the Zarathi ships. Panic spread. Without their main weapons, the enemy could no longer control the battlefield. Leora Tan allowed herself a small smile. The tide has turned, she whispered. The fleet pressed the advantage. Humans and Arindians worked together like never before. Ships that had once been slow and weak now moved with speed, striking at enemy flanks and retreating before the Zarathi could respond. Humans led risky but successful maneuvers, confusing the enemy and dividing their forces.
Ryan coordinated the attacks from the Liberty. Focus on command ships. Split their fleet. Force them to retreat.
Sophie led another strike, this time disabling a supply ship.
The Zarathi supplies were cut, morale was low, and confusion spread like wildfire. The massive fleet was no longer a single unit.
It was broken into smaller, vulnerable groups. Leora Tan watched the progress, amazed.
Her people, once defeated and desperate, now moved with courage and skill. Humans had taught them not only new strategies, but also belief in themselves.
The Arindians had become a force the Zarathi could not predict. Hours passed, and the battle raged. The Zarathi tried to regroup, but humans anticipated their moves. Ryan and Sophie used feints, retreats, and rapid attacks to control the battlefield.
Each human-led team forced the enemy to react to them, leaving openings for Arindian ships to strike. Lieutenant Jalen piloted a ship through a narrow gap in the asteroid field, disabling a Zaratha cruiser. It works, he shouted. Humans are right. We can fight like this.
Leora Tan smiled. Yes, Jalen.
Together we are strong, and together we can win.
The final move came when Ryan directed all forces toward the center of the enemy fleet. This is it, he said.
We strike together fast and hard. Target command ships and weapon arrays. Leave nothing.
Sophie led the first strike, moving through the enemy's central formation. Explosions rocked the Zarathi fleet. Human pilots darted between enemy ships, disabling key systems and creating chaos. Erindian ships followed, attacking weakened ships and cutting off escape routes. The Zurathi tried to regroup, but humans anticipated every move. Their ships moved unpredictably, striking where the enemy did not expect. The fleet was broken, scattered, and defeated.
At last, the Zurathi command ship was disabled. The rest of the fleet had no choice but to retreat.
The combined human-Erindian fleet held the field. The battle was won. Leora Tan allowed herself a rare moment of relief. She looked at Ryan and Sophie.
"You have done what no one else could," she said. "Humans, you have saved us."
Ryan shook his head.
"We did it together. Humans helped, but your people fought bravely too. This victory is yours as much as ours."
Sophie smiled.
"And remember, the unexpected can be your greatest weapon."
The aftermath was quiet, but full of hope. The Erindians began repairing their worlds.
Colonies that had been destroyed were rebuilt, and the fleet, though battered, had gained experience and confidence. Humans had taught them new ways to fight, to think, and to survive.
Lieutenant Jalen approached Leora.
"Captain, the humans, they changed everything. We never would have survived without them."
Leora nodded.
Yes, Jalen?
"They have shown us courage, intelligence, and heart. The galaxy will never underestimate humanity again."
Ryan and Sophie prepared to return to Earth. "We did what we could," Ryan said.
"Now it's up to your people to hold what we've won," Sophie added. "And remember, humans will always be unpredictable. That is our strength, and now yours too."
The Erindian fleet gathered to honor the humans. Leora Tan spoke before all the officers and crews.
"These humans have taught us more than battle tactics. They have shown us courage, hope, and creativity. We owe them our survival.
From this day, humans are not just allies.
They are friends and protectors of our people."
Ryan and Sophie bowed slightly.
"We only did what we could,"
Ryan said. Sophie smiled.
"And maybe we've started a new chapter in the galaxy, one where humans are not underestimated."
The stars stretched endlessly before them. The Zurathi had retreated. Their arrogance had been broken. The humans had arrived, and their influence had changed the course of a war that seemed hopeless.
Erindians would survive, rebuild, and remember the lessons humans had taught them. Leora Tan looked at the sky, her heart filled with hope.
"We fought the impossible," she whispered, "and we won."
Ryan Hale and Sophie Miller prepared to return to Earth, but they knew the galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer just a young unknown species.
They were clever, brave, and capable of turning the tide of war. Any enemy that underestimated them would pay a heavy price. And in the hearts of the Erindians, humans would always be remembered as the ones who brought hope when defeat felt certain. The galaxy was wide and dangerous, but for the first time, the Erindians faced it not with fear, but with courage, and the humans had shown them the way.
Victory was not just survival, it was a new beginning.
And humanity, unpredictable and fearless, had made its mark on the stars.